everyone, it's Andrea from Summit Valley Soap. Today I'm making beer soap. I talk a lot about how much I love beer soap and how it's my favorite, and people will ask me what makes it different or what's special about beer soap. Honestly, all handmade soap is really great, but because of the sugars and yeast in beer soap has a really luxurious, fluffy, soft lather, and it just feels amazing. Now, you could achieve this in other ways. You could simply add sugar, you could use another alternative liquid like wine, and I do use wine in a lot of my soaps, but I just find beer to be really fun. There are more ways than one to add beer to your soap. I've tried a lot of them, and this method is my favorite. It's the heat transfer method. So right now I'm making my lye solution, and I'm using distilled water and lye crystals. I have already simmered my beer and reduced it by half. For this recipe, I'm gonna add half a beer, but I've reduced it down to 3 ounces. That 3 ounces of liquid had to come out of what I normally would have used for distilled water. Because of that, this solution is really hot because it's very concentrated. And while it's still hot, I'm gonna add it to my solid oils and butters. This recipe happens to be coconut oil, shea butter, castor oil, and olive oil. Use whatever soap recipe you know and love. You do not have to use this one. It's not special for beer soap. It's just one I like. If you've never made soap before, I would not suggest starting with beer soap. In the discussion below, I'm gonna add some tutorials for beginning soap making. Start there. I grabbed my scale and I'm gonna measure in my liquid oils. And remember, the lye is already in here, so we are already on our way to making soap. I'm adding yellow dock powder and alkanet root. It's just for color, and I think it adds kind of a rustic touch. Here's the beer. Like I said, this is about half of a beer, but I have reduced it by 50%, so that's 3 ounces worth. I like it to be nice and concentrated. Because I'm using the heat transfer method, I only have a few ounces to devote to the beer, so I want them to be 3 really good ounces. These are my essential oils. It's a blend of almond, there's some liang liang and some other florals in there. It moves really quickly, so that's why you're just gonna see me use a whisk, and that's why I had my mold there, because it is accelerating pretty quickly, and I wanna get it in the mold before it gets too hard. I keep my beer soap very rustic, but I've seen people do beautiful colors and swirls. You know, you're really not limited, but for me, that's my aesthetic, is just a really natural looking beer soap. I'm gonna texture up the top here, and I will spray this down with some isopropyl alcohol. I'm not going to process it in the oven because of the sugars in the beer. It gets really hot, and I've never had any trouble getting it to gel. While I cut these and clean them up with the planer, let me tell you about other ways you could add beer to your soap. One way is to add it earlier in the process. Actually use it either 100% beer solution, or you could do a 50-50 water beer, I mean, whatever you want to try, and add your lye crystals directly to that. If you do that method, I strongly suggest that you freeze your beer. Use it as ice cubes and add the lye crystals directly to the ice. Move very slowly, stir the whole time, add a little bit at a time. Alcohol and lye can be a volatile combination, so be very careful. You will not be able to do the heat transfer method if you go that route, just because if you keep it nice and cool, it will be too cool to melt your oils, but that's okay. You can There's more than one way to skin a cat. Now, I love how gorgeous and rustic these look. And, you know, I'll say it for like the 100th time, I love beer soap. It's really fantastic. If you're a soaper and you haven't tried adding beer to your batter, do it. It's worth a shot. And I always say you either love beer soap or you haven't tried it. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you found this video helpful or in the very least entertaining. My soaps are always for sale. I have an Etsy shop. I'm Summit Valley Soap at Etsy. Find me on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you have a great day.